Okay, everybody. So let's go ahead and dive into this. So in today's session, we're going to be strictly covering the new Salesforce tool, specifically around the quote functionality and the opportunities. So what I'm going to basically do is take you guys through a pretty in-depth demo of all the new quote functionality. I believe both of you were part of the Salesforce pilot program that we did last fall. So a lot of what you're going to see today are the enhancements that came from that pilot program, specifically around quotes, quote solution sets, quote line items, and quote proposals. So we're going to cover, really kind of focus on that. We're going to talk about our direct versus indirect opportunities and quotes. Then we're going to dive right into creating some quotes, creating solution sets, adding quote line items, the importance of keeping your quotes synchronized with your opportunities, the opportunity approval process, and then talk about the quote proposals. So we're in our sandbox environment, otherwise known as our test environment. So please keep that in mind as we're going through today's session. The data isn't all that great, but it's good enough for me to do some of these demos, take you kind of through the functionality, and then show you some of the capabilities as well. I'm not able to see a lot of if you're texting me. So if you have any questions, be sure to just ask. This is a interactive session, so please feel free to interrupt me at any time with any questions. I am recording this session, so I'll have that posted out on our YouTube channel. We do have a YouTube channel for this Salesforce project. We've sent those links out. We'll be resending those out probably tomorrow. Also, one last thing, our pre-recorded webinars should be completed and available on the MyImagine Academy. We should all be receiving emails, invites on that by sometime tomorrow morning, Central Standard Time. So I'll make sure that everybody's getting those invites, but really that should be coming from the MyImagine Academy team, specifically Don Vance. So you'll be able to take those courses at any time. It's basically covering a lot of the same functionality, but also going into all the other areas like accounts and contacts and opportunities. So you'll be seeing those invites as well. Okay, so let's dive right into this. So one of the areas I wanted to cover before we get into quoting is talk a little bit about dashboards and reports. So as you can see here, when you log into Salesforce, one of the big wins that we're getting with this is this capability and how you can immediately see your different dashboards right from the home page of Salesforce. You can also click on dashboards, which will take you into a lot more dashboards that will be available based on what your role is. So like this, for example, is a whole host of different dashboards. Really these top three are kind of company-wide, so kind of getting an overall picture of how the company's doing in terms of the current quarter pipeline versus our POR, forecast versus POR, and then our funnel pipeline versus POR. So you can also, we're going to have team-specific type of dashboards. Or, for example, if you're a manager and you want to track and see how is my specific team's pipeline looking or how is their forecast looking. All right, these are two great examples of that. And behind every dashboard is a report. So with your mouse, you can drill down into these dashboards, and then you can actually see the data that's making that up, right, and how we have it grouped and how we have it summarized. So really big win with this. This is going to be, I think, really, really useful for everybody as you start to log in, having great visibility to all of your information just right there at a mouse click. And then you can have a lot of different dashboards I've mentioned. So we've already created some of these. We've got sales rep dashboards. We've got some quote dashboards that we've created. And really, again, this is just to kind of give everybody just a, kind of a taste of what is capable in terms of the different dashboards that can be created. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll go into talking about opportunities and quotes. So one of the big differences that I want to make sure everybody understands in terms of the relationship between opportunities and quotes as it relates to within Salesforce as opposed to Siebel. Siebel really, opportunities and quotes can pretty much exist in a standalone, meaning I can create a quote really without an opportunity. With Salesforce, the relationship is very different. The opportunity really is the parent of your quote. So they are linked, and you can't create a quote without an opportunity. And this is a really important piece to really understand, because while it's important to have a good quoting tool, right, and that's really where Siebel really thrives. I mean, you've got some great quoting functionality within Siebel. What was being really missed there, and it's just because the system just really didn't have the type of relationships that are needed, was to support not just quoting, but forecasting as well. Really, and that's what Salesforce, I think, is really going to help us out with, because forecasting in our world actually is just as important as quoting. So as you'll see here, when we start to create your quotes, kind of what the process is to do that, but then the importance of always keeping the quote in sync with the opportunity. This will not only ensure that you have the same amounts between your quotes and opportunities, same products, but then it's also driving more accurate forecasting. So to create a quote, really you start at the account. And with that, you would locate your account in many different ways. First way is you could go into the account tab, and you have these different related list views, which are basically predefined queries. So I have a little bit more just based on my access, but really one of the first ones you'll probably use for anything else is the My Accounts view. You simply make sure that that's selected and click Go. This is going to show you all the accounts where you're the owner. Okay, there's additional list views like My Teams, for example, where this would show any accounts where you're on the teams. In Salesforce, there is a team concept. There's an account team concept, and there's an opportunity team concept. So as the owner, if I go back to my accounts, and let's say I drill down into this account Fireside Pies. There's this account team related list. And I have the ability as the owner, if I want to add additional team members to this, and then in addition to that, being able to drive what type of access do they have to not only the account per se, but to say the opportunity associated to this account as well. You can also specify what their team role is. So say, for example, this is my inside sales rep. You can add this as the owner. You can add these manually. But we can also set up what are called default teams, which we plan on doing. So for every single RSM and for every single inside sales reps, we'll have a default team associated to you so that as you're added as the owner to any account or opportunity, your default teams will automatically be populated on the account team or the opportunity team as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create an opportunity for this account, Fireside Pies. And now we come to when we click on new opportunity, we have to then decide, are we creating a direct sales opportunity or are we creating an indirect sales? The main difference between your direct and indirect, and this is really important to understand, is that your direct is selling directly to an end user, and that a partner or an SI is not involved. Okay, as opposed to an indirect sales, a partner is involved or an SI is. One of the FAQs that we're going to be providing to everybody, I'm just going to show just a quick example of this, is this slide deck that kind of goes into the different types of scenarios that we have when we're creating opportunities. And basically gives you some direction on what type of record type that you would select and where you would enter in your account or your end user or your partner information depending on the scenario. So, for example, if you're just working with an end user, then it would be a direct record type, and the end user or prospect information would be entered as the account. As opposed to if you're working with a partner, you select the indirect record type, and then the partner would actually be entered in as both the account name and the partner name. There's also more scenarios when you're dealing with SIs as to how you would capture that, but really the SIs pretty much function relatively the same as if you're working with a partner. We're also going to show you how you can add sales agents now and associate those to opportunities. So we'll be passing this FAQ out. We'll be sending this out more so that you can get a better idea of kind of what the different scenarios are and how you create those opportunities within Salesforce. Any questions on direct versus indirect? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create an indirect opportunity. And again, the main difference there is that a partner is going to be required in order for me to do this. So I'd select the lookup field. And I can first look to see if it's in a recently viewed account, so if this is a partner that I've been working with, or I can also just run a query from here. In this instance, my partner is actually listed there. I've been doing a lot of business with my Stewart Channel partner. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to enter in a name. I'm going to enter in a close date. Close date needs to be greater than today's date. And then I'm going to enter in a sales stage. Now, while I might not be ready at this point to create a quote, I may have an idea of kind of what the amount should be for that quote. So I'm estimating that based on my discussions with the partner and the end user, this is potentially a $200,000 quote. I'm sorry, $200,000 opportunity. So I'll go ahead and enter that into the amount field. And then I'm going to go ahead and select a line of business. And I'm going to click Save. Okay. If I have a sales agent that I'm working with on this opportunity, all sales agents need to be entered in as contacts within Salesforce. So you first have to enter that sales agent as a contact. After doing that, on this opportunity, I can come down to the sales agent related team, click on New Sales Agent, and then from here, I'm going to find that sales agent and select it. So in this case, it's John Smith. And I may know this information, I may not, but if I do have an idea what their commission is, I can go ahead and enter that in as a percentage. I can type in 5, for example. I'm going to save that. And you'll notice that the commission amount is now populated with $10,000. What this is doing is taking your commission percentage and then multiplying it by the amount of the opportunity. So then you have a general idea, if you know that sales agent's commission, what that real amount is based on the amount of the opportunity. So one thing to keep in mind is that this amount field as of right now is without any quote being created. Okay? Once you create a quote, which we're about to do, and you synchronize that quote back to this opportunity, it's going to overwrite this amount field with what the amount is on the quote, as well as add the line items as products onto the opportunity. Now, to create a quote on an opportunity, there's basically two ways to do that. One way you can do that is by clicking on the quote related list here, clicking New Quote. You put in a price book, and then you click Save. And we're going to go through that here in just a minute. But another way that you can create a quote is by clicking on the Copy Quote button. And what this is we've added some additional functionality here to where if you have an older quote, for example, that you want to use. Maybe it's an older quote for this same customer that you've used in the past. and you want to use that same quote instead of creating one from scratch. As long as you know the quote name, you can click on that copy quote button, and then you come into this lookup. And then you can run a query here to find that quote. You can also, this is also a really easy way, so like if you want to create budgetary quotes or templates, for example, quote templates, you can do that, make sure that you come up with a naming convention for those quotes, because then again, if this is, say, a Platinum IP3 opportunity, and I already have a template that I'm reusing over and over again for these type of opportunities, then I can just query for that particular template. So we have several templates that we've created in the system. Okay, I'm going to select the main template, Platinum IP3. You then have a choice where the reset quote checkbox, what this does is that if you have this set to true, any discounts I have on this quote that I'm about to copy would be nulled out, would be blanked. If I have this field set to true, it's defaulted this way. If I want to keep those discounts, I would just take that button off, and then I would click copy. So again, this is just a little bit faster way that you can create a quote. If you already have a template or another quote you've used, and really what it's about is just saving time in terms of, the additional solution sets and line items that you have to add. Because as you can see, it copies all the solution sets and the line items that were already there. And since I didn't reset the quote, it also copied whatever discounts that I had on this template as well. Any questions about that? Joe, yes. We will include this in an update email tomorrow. Okay, so as I said before, you could also create the quote just by going to the opportunity, clicking on the new quote. The only field that you have to enter in if you were to create the quote that way is the quote price book, which you would just do from this lookup. So I'm going to go ahead and just start from here since this quote already has a lot of line items added because I copied it. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of demo some of the other capabilities that we've included. So here's your quote, and as you can see, it's version 1. It includes which quote that it was cloned from. So you can always go back to the original one. Right now, it's got a status of draft. And then also, again, as you can see, the extended list price. So you've got several different fields here in terms of discounting and in terms of the overall price fields. These fields listed here under discounting, this gives you the ability to discount by the product types. So, for example, if you wanted to discount every single hardware product within the quote, you could do that from here rather than going through each of the line items of the solution set. The total discount amount is an aggregate calculation based on the total discounts that you've added to the quote, same as total discount percentage. Additional discount gives you the ability to discount across the entire quote. And then you got your extended list price. You've got your grand total excluding any options that you may have on the quote. And then you have the overall grand total after discounts. If we scroll down to your quote line item section, again, you've got a lot of different solution sets that have been created here. Okay? And really this is kind of where this all starts. So going back to the pilot from last year, really the process that it looked as if everybody was following was first to create the solution sets and then to start adding your line items to those solution sets. So for each of your solution sets, you can rename them by just clicking on the rename button and highlighting the one that you want to rename. So like, for example, for this one, I'm going to rename this to options. And then to make this an optional solution set, I would highlight it and then click optional. You can see it's highlighted in red. I have the ability to reorder solution sets by dragging and dropping the solution sets with my mouse. So I can left click here, I can drag this down wherever I want that solution set to show up. And then I can also create parent-child relationships through the same type of deal where I can left click and then drag it more or less underneath another solution set. And once I do that, I have my parent, I have my child. I can always change this. And then I can reorder it again. Okay? You can basically do the same thing as well as I move into the other solution sets. So, for example, here, if I wanted to change the order of these line items, again, just drag and drop, like so. I can also move my solution sets. I can move either all my line items to different solution sets, or I can move one line item at a time. So, for example, in my support solution set, if I wanted to move this particular line into options, I would simply just select that line, and then the next to the move to, click the drop down, and then select the solution set that I want to move it to, and then click the move to button. And now that line item shows up in my options section. I can also delete my solution sets. And I can copy line items from one solution set to another. So, for example, if I wanted to copy, say, this first hardware, or maybe the second hardware line item into my option solution set, again, it works the same way as the move to. Select the line, select your solution set, and then click copy to. So now I have an exact copy of that same line item in my options. I can provide line discounts at either an individual line item level or for the entire solution set. So right now, as you can see, at my line item, for my line items, my solution sets, I've got some of these set at 25% line discount. Some of them don't have any. So if I wanted to maybe change this line discount for this entire solution set, I click the top checkbox here, which then selects every line item listed, and then a line discount, and I'm going to change that to 10. So I type in 10 here, and then I click Mass Edit. Now for the support, we're not able to discount at the line item level for each of your support line items. You can do that at the product type because support is actually priced, in some cases, automatically for you depending on how it's added. For each of the fields that you have where you can actually enter a value in, just like I did that for the line discount, if I wanted, say, for example, to add a long description field, and I wanted to add the same long description value, say, to these two these two line items here. Again, I can select those, and I'm just going to put in just something so you can see, and I click Mass Edit, and it would then add that long description I typed here specifically to these two line items. Same thing can be done with custom part number and with quantity. We've also included in the next section here a way that you can see all of the quote line items on the quote that are, it's more of a flat view, so it's not within all the different solution sets. So if you wanted to see just real quick, what are all the line items that I have on this quote, this is where you can come to do this, and then you can drill down into each of the product information or into the line item information here, and then if you wanted to see more details on the product itself, you could drill down into the product. Okay, to add a new product, if you wanted to add additional line items, you need to select the solution set that you want to add the line items to. And then you click on New. You then come to a product search page. So from here, you can search for products in essentially two different ways. One by a keyword search. So, for example, if maybe I don't know the entire part number, or maybe I do, I can type that in here. Click search. If I only knew, say, first 5 letters, I could type that in, and it'll basically do kind of a wildcard search by both your product name and your part number. You can also use filters. So you've got a lot of different fields here. All the different product fields are listed here. So if you wanted to search directly by the part number, use this field for the action, and then enter in the part that you're trying to find. Click search. In this case, it'll bring back exactly that part number. You then put a checkbox next to each line item that returns, each product that returns from your search. And let's say I had more than one product that returned. I can select all of those all at one time if I wanted to. Click select. You'll then enter in a quantity. And then if you need to add more line items, you click save and more. It'll take you back to that product search page, or you just click save, and it'll take you back to the quote. Was there a question? I'm sorry. No? Okay. Okay, sorry, Joe. I don't know when you asked this. Any way to show all the items in different solution sets? Yeah, I mean, that's really what, in terms of if you want to move these items so you can create a new solution set, for example, right? And then you can start from that solution set, you would rename it. Then you can start adding all of your solution set or all of your line items directly to that solution set. As I showed before, you can move different line items from solution set. You can copy those to the different solution sets. So a lot of different ways that you can show each of the different line items in whichever solution set that you want to create. Okay. So coming back to this, so we've kind of gone through, a lot of different ways that you can use solution set, that you can use line items. It's pretty flexible, a lot of different ways that you can update all of your line items. We talked a bit about the overall discounting capabilities. So again, I can do overall discounts through the mass edit functionality, or I can just do, one-off discounts by line. It just depends on really what you want to do. If you want to use the product type discount capabilities, one thing to keep in mind is that if you discount here, it will override any line discount that you have. So if I wanted to discount every hardware line item, say by 25%, my line discount would be overridden.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hey,
Hey,
sorry.
sorry,
So,
it's Joe. I
I
found
found
that
that
it's
it's
better
better
to
to
call
call
the line instead of using the audio in the computer. Just a question about the discount. I see you separate from hardware discount, software discount. So how to classify the product as a hardware software?
So we've added a product type field, so I can show you that. So there's a product type field now associated to each product in Salesforce, and it's an attribute associated to the product itself. So that's how we're able to make the product type discount.
Okay. Is that done by admin or is done by the one who, the user?
You mean in terms of who enters in this product type value?
Yes.
Yeah, so what we're using is when the products come in from Oracle R12, because Oracle R12 is our product and pricing master. So what we're doing is there is a product group code that comes over from there, and based on that product group code, we're using that to then drive whether it's a hardware, software, professional services, or support product.
Okay.
So there is some automation to it. It's not just randomly selected.
Okay. Understood.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So a couple of fields that I want to make sure that we cover also, because this is important that these are entered in, especially before we create the actual proposal. You've got your prepared for contact information here. So this is really who is it that you're working with from the customer or from the partner on this particular quote, right? So you want to put a value in here. And then also you've got your bill to contact and your ship to contact that's listed here as well. Oh, did I just lose everybody?
You do.
Are you able to see my screen still?
Just it's coming out.
Sorry, Joe, I can barely hear you.
I just said now we can see you clearly.
Okay, good deal.
Not good, but now it's okay.
Okay, I had a message that just popped up that said I lost connection, so I just wanted to make sure. Your question here, Minling, request solution sets before part numbers. Yeah, so again, you need to create your solution sets and kind of your structure before you can start adding your different line items. So that's what we were doing down here. So you'll create your solution sets, and then as you create your solution sets, you'll then select the solution set that you want to add your line items to.
Sorry to add one more question. Maybe you already mentioned about it. One of the problems in Siebel is when we update the quote value based on the discount or the line items, the opportunity will not sync with the value that we updated in the quote. So does the SFCC resolve this problem?
Yeah, you've got a wicked echo going on, man. I can barely understand what you're asking me.
Hold on, sorry. Is that better now?
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Okay.
That's good. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. The question is, in Siebel, when we update the quote value, the opportunity value does not update automatically.
Right. So I'm going to show you how you
can
synchronize. Yeah, so that's the synchronization process that I'm going to show you here in just a minute.
Okay.
That's going to keep your quote and your opportunities in sync.
Okay.
Let me enter in this bill to contact and the ship to contact. real quick here. Let's save that. And then let's come back up to the top here, go over some of these buttons. So going back to your question, Joe, so to synchronize your quote so that you're keeping this in sync with the associated opportunity, very simple process. You simply just click the Start Sync button, and then it's going to give you this quick message to tell you what this is going to do. You click Sync, click Done, and once the synchronization process starts, it never stops. You have to stop it. Okay, so any additional line items that I add, any additional changes that I make will automatically update to the opportunity for you. You don't have to remember to do that. So if I go in now back into my opportunity, as you can see now, my amount is in synchronization with my quote. And then if I go to my products, you can see all my products have been synchronized back to my opportunity. You'll also see the different quote versions that are associated to this opportunity and which one is actually synchronized. So right now we only have one version of a quote, but say I went back into this same quote and say I wanted to create a new version. I'll click the Revise Quote button, confirm it, now I have a version 2, and what the system will automatically do is it will automatically update to always synchronize the latest version of the quote. So you don't have to remember
the latest version of the quote.
Yeah. So as you can tell, see, I just created a revision, right? This is revision 2, but look at my sync flag. It's set to true. So now if I go back to that opportunity, I go to look at my quotes, you'll see my version 2 is what's synchronizing now, not my version 1. Now you can always change that. You can always go back a different version if that's the one, say that the customer comes back and says, hey, actually let's go back to version 1 for whatever reason, right? If that were to happen, you can always go back to version 1 or a different version, and then you could synchronize this version back to your opportunity. You just click the Start Sync button.
Okay.
Probably will not do that most of the time. You'll probably just stick with whatever the latest version is. So, you probably don't have to do that very often, but just so you know, it is there if you do. If you do need to change the synchronization to sync with a different version, or I should say an earlier version of the quote, you can do that.
Okay.
So again, that's one of the big, differences right there between Salesforce and Siebel, because by having that synchronization process, by just synchronizing, at one time, every other version, it'll automatically sync for you. So it's very easy to always keep at least your opportunity amounts and your products and your opportunities directly in line and in sync with your quote. And then from there, it's just a matter of, from your forecasting standpoint, keeping your close date and your sales stage set up correctly. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk through some of the other functionality that we've got here. So to create proposals. So if I wanted to create a proposal from this quote, again, I want to make sure that, I've got mine prepared for section filled out, my address, my bill to, my ship to, my bill to contact, all that's right. I've got my line items ordered in the way that I want them on my solution sets. I've got my solution sets ordered the way that I want them, right? Everything's looking good. So I'm going to click Create Proposal. So we've actually purchased an additional third-party software called Conga. And this is a really powerful tool. It gives us a lot of flexibility to create a lot of different types of templates. And we know there are some additional templates that you guys have in Siebel. We're working on trying to get those built out for Go Live within Salesforce. So right now we only have 2, but we should have the other 3 created before we go live. But as you can see, these are basically Word documents And you can also, if you wanted to say create this template directly into PDF, under our output options, you can select Adobe PDF. So when I merge and actually download this, by selecting Adobe PDF, it's going to create that document in that format. Conga does have flexibility to create templates in Excel and Word and Adobe and even PowerPoint. So we should be able to utilize this tool for other needs like RFPs and SOWs and things like that. So as you can see there, it merged all the information from the quotes into this document. It downloaded it as a PDF. So here's your quote proposal. Should look very similar to what you have in Siebel. Here's your summary section. So all your different solution sets, and then your option section is listed here. And then as you scroll down, it breaks it out by your different solution sets and then by your different line items. So again, very, very similar to what you have today. Once you've created a proposal using Conga, it will also automatically attach it. When I refresh this quote, it'll attach it to the quote within Salesforce. So you can always go back to it if you wanted to view it again. Any questions on that? Okay, let's move on to talk about the professional services notification button. So one of the areas that we wanted to try to incorporate more and to integrate more is our professional services team working with our sales teams on these different deals. Because as you know, there's a lot of professional services that is needed with a lot of the solutions that we're providing. The problem I think that we've had is really given the professional services team the type of visibility they need to these quotes. So as you add professional services to your quotes, like for example right here, I've got several professional services items. Before you can submit this quote for approval, there's really two things that you need to do. One, you need to make sure that the quote is being synchronized to the opportunity. But then two, if you've got any professional services, you need to notify that team. And to do that, you simply just click this field. That's odd. Sorry, guys. Still in a test environment. I'll have to make a note of that. Oh, I'm sorry. I normally have. We've been running through some tests with some other functionality. Apologize. This flag, professional services requested, is normally always set to true. It's a default. And basically what this does is by setting this to true, there's actually a lookup in the background that will automatically add professional services for you, depending on the product line and product type combination. So I may have messed this up a little bit. See if it added it there. There we go. Okay. So if it's adding so it's adding a professional services item right here based on product line, product type. Now, it's only going to add the professional services line item for each solution set one time if it sees the same combination. So this entire solution set, every one of the product types and product lines is router and hardware, which is why you're only seeing this one professional services. It's not going to add one of these line items for every single combination. So then to notify the professional services team, I click the PS notification button. You'll click OK to that message, and then it's going to create several activities. And these activities you can see on the quote, but really what's happened is it's taken these activities and it's now assigned these to the professional services team in your region based on the country of the account on the quote. So it's not just going to send this out to the entire professional service team globally. It's going to send it to a specific list of users that are going to be monitoring this in the APAC professional services team. So they'll receive this activity, and then they can drill into the quote from the activity and then start to collaborate and work directly with you and other sales team members to make sure that the professional services have been added that are needed for this quote. Because again, really by clicking this button, by having this button set to true, all this is really doing is just adding kind of a starting professional services line item. It's not going to know exactly what all additional professional services would be needed. Okay, so then lastly, we have the Submit for Approval button. So we are going to implement some very, very basic approval process flows within Salesforce. And these are going to be regionalized approval process flows based on thresholds utilizing the grand total amount of the quote. And they're only going to be one-level approval processes, meaning look at it like this. If your threshold, say, is $100,000 for your region, so if it's above $100,000, it would go to one approver. If it's below $100,000, it would go to a different approver. But it's not going to be a multi-level approval process. It's either one or the other, and it's only one person. So each user, when we set you up within Salesforce, you're going to be set up with a specific approval process, and you're also going to be set up with your first-line approver. Most likely that could be either your direct report manager, or potentially it could be, for APAC, it could be Joe. Lane Lowball is still working actually with the APAC team kind of finalized what that's going to look like. But that's kind of the idea. So if you submit this quote, for example, here, you click Submit for Approval. You'll get a message here that says, once you submit this record for approval, you might not be able to edit or recall it from the approval process depending on your settings. Our settings are set up to where once you submit it, it's going to go into an in-review status, and you're not able to make any changes to it at this point. But if you go into the approval history related section, one, you'll see who the approver is been assigned to, but then also you have the ability to recall that quote. So if some changes come up, whatever happens, and you need to recall it and add those changes, you just click the recall approval request, add a comment for whatever reason, and then click it again, and it's going to take it back into a draft status, and then you can make additional changes. And then you can resubmit it. This approval history always keeps track of everything that happens. So you originally submitted it here, you recalled it here, you resubmitted it again, and now it's back to sitting with the sales manager test user. The approvers will receive an automated email, an automated quote email. And the approver can review that email. It has quite a bit of details on it about what the quote is, the total amount, the discount, the margin, what account it's for, a partner, etc. And the user also, there's a link on the email as well directly that will take them to the quote within Salesforce. So they have two options really. They don't have to be in Salesforce to approve the quote. They can just simply reply to the quote, type in yes or type in approve, and that will approve it, or reject, or no, and that will reject it. Or if they want to see more details on the quote, they can click the actual link and it will take them into Salesforce, and then they can approve the quote from here. They can also delegate other users as their approvers. So if they're going to be on vacation or maybe they're going to be in sales meeting, whatever the case may be, if they're not available, they can have somebody delegated that can act on their behalf. That's pretty much it in terms of quotes. Any other questions?
Hello, this is Joe Lam. Sorry, I just want to ask a question. Did you say that the approver is going to be one person only?
Yeah, Joe, right now we only have it as a one level. We're not going any further than that. Our understanding is that the approval processes that have tried to be implemented at Imagine in the past have been not very successful because they've been a little bit overcomplicated, and it tend to take a lot longer time than was acceptable to get the quote approved. So kind of look at it as we're starting more from a baby step standpoint. We're going to see how this by just using a threshold on the grand total, and by just having a one level approval hierarchy, we can see how that works out in the beginning, and then reassess it. And if we need to make it multiple levels, or maybe if we need to make it a little bit more either more flexible or not as flexible, we can look at making those changes. The approval workflow in Salesforce is it allows you to do quite a bit.
Okay.
So we're going to be reassessing that. We're going to be reassessing a lot of things as we first deploy this out. I like to tell everybody that, we're never going to really stop learning. We're never going to really stop training. We're never going to really stop updating everyone. I mean, we're going to constantly be tweaking the system to make it better, right? To make it easier to use, to make it add more value to everybody's lives, and to, in the end, obviously, make it easier for you guys to do business.
Okay.
Okay, well, I hope this has been helpful. I know it's a lot of information to dissect in an hour, but I did record it, so I will be posting it out to everybody to access. And, we've got training sessions all week long this week, Monday through Thursday. So we've got more sessions, same times tomorrow night and the next night after that. We also have these same sessions going on next week. So please, if you need to, attend as many sessions as you can. You're more than welcome to attend as many as you want. But if you have any questions or concerns, by all means, please send us an email, myself or Jamie Kangas, and we will get back to you guys as soon as possible.
Okay. So just a quick question. Each day agenda and section will be different, right?
Say that again, Joe. Sorry.
Well, let me repeat my question. So are you going to cover different functions on each day, or go through the same topic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so the way that we've structured the training, so Jamie Kangas is also doing training, okay? His training is more focused on sales reps, where this training is more focused on what we're referring to as power users. Power users is really the name that we've given to the small number of users that we're seeing that are actually creating a majority of the quotes globally, right? So yes, we do have a lot of sales users, but a small fraction of those users are actually creating the quotes, right? So that's the reason why we really separated this out, because we wanted to make sure that the power users that have really been creating a lot of the quotes, right, that do a lot of the quote work, we want to make sure that we had a session that's strictly focused just on the quoting capabilities. You're more than welcome to attend Jamie's session, which is more around sales rep training, basic type of navigation, querying, goes into more around the accounts, the contacts. It goes into more detail around the forecasting in terms of the sales stages and things like that. And he's got those sessions going on at relatively the same time as me. But if you'd like to attend those, if you don't have those